much management or hands-on do the customers want relative to what they're asking you to do?
Well, for a live event, if it's a live media event, there's huge focus from both the customer and all of their suppliers. They'll have lots of people working throughout the whole period. In many cases, there'll be audio bridges open with multiple companies on, making sure that the whole signal path, which could be provided by multiple companies, is managed appropriately, and that you respond to every problem. We actually, because we're a telco like Adam's company, and there's this sense that if something breaks, there's an SLA and you have a number of hours or whatever is in your SLA to fix it. But if you're providing a service for a broadcaster, they need to know instantly what you can do about it. It's a very, very different mindset, and it's so different that we manage it with completely different sets of people. It's a completely different set of knock. You need to understand the technology and the terminology, but it's that ability to really understand that you're affecting something that's going live to air, and that the way you respond and react is very different. But that happens then both in the traditional broadcast world where we're moving television signals, but it also happens with live events that are streamed on the internet. The technologies are different, but the way that it's managed is essentially the same. They're very complex because multiple vendors are involved, but there's eyes on glass and eyes on everything all the time throughout the entire event, and for the setup period as well, where everything's being tuned and set up. So these are complicated things to operate.
Absolutely,
You have,
yeah.
in the traditional, you have the 4-hour SLA, you have the 5 nines or whatever, and the Olympics, we had a 25 millisecond. We were allowed 25 milliseconds outage, period. And I know that level 3, when they do the Super Bowl, they have a 25 millisecond. You're allowed that because it's less than a frame, because they will not allow you to take it down for more than a frame of video. So you have to put, that's why like the CBC thing is I want to have 4 feeds coming into this system so that if 2 of them die, I still have 2 more sitting there with a 25 millisecond failover.
And in particular at the World Cup, I mean, imagine you have the Brazilian national soccer team playing, right? And just when they're about to shoot a goal, the network goes down. I mean, the country's going to go up in arms, right? So it's a very different world, right?
Yes.
And I think Mark mentioned it. It's for us that are in the telecom or IT or technology sector, we have certain words that we use and certain perceptions and whatever. But when it comes to broadcast and live events, I mean, it's a different language, different people, different time scale. Things. I mean, failure is just not an option, right? And then and if I think of management. What the guys, again, I'm quoting BT a little bit because I follow their process very carefully. They were in the planning phases for a good 2.5 years or more. I think you mentioned that, Mark, earlier.
Yeah.
And it becomes a real exercise in absolutely flawless project management, right? There's so many moving pieces. I mean, and we just see a little bit of it, right?
Right.
We see the broadcast side, and in that broadcast side, you have the live streaming, you have the chat sessions, you need to have the people that are on Twitter. I mean, it's all this whole complex world that's out there. But in addition to that, you also have feeds for security, right? Because it's a world event. You need to provide that infrastructure. You need to make sure that the whole, let's say, walkie-talkie systems works between the different first responders. I mean, there's a huge amount of work that goes into some of these events, and I cannot overstate the amount of planning, meticulous planning that has to go into this. And that's pre-game, right? Then you have a complete different set of people that are looking at during the game and managing let's say the signals. And I remember when we did, let's say, the X Games in the jungle, we actually had different type of technicians in every single pop between the jungle and our connection. Because if something happened to the equipment, it's not like you can send out a truck and fix it. It needs to be done instantly. And so I think that's where a lot of that planning and engineering comes into play.